The ANZAC Day teams have just been announced. Pretty much what we thought was going to happen. Let's talk about it. So before we get into it, my interview with Barry Karp went absolutely just incredible. The first part drops on Sunday, so I'm really excited for that. And then the second part will drop next week. It'll probably be about Tuesday or Wednesday, probably more leaning towards Wednesday. It was just an unreal experience. He's just a bit of a tease from it. 4 years, over 100,000 members. It's absolutely huge for us.
Yeah, 100% right.
And look, we've talked about the presidency. We've talked about, the community and stuff. I guess the real question is, what number does Bontempelli wear next year? All right, now that that is out of the way, let's talk about these teams. So we know that on ANZAC Day, today, whenever you're watching this, ANZAC Day, it's going to be 19. There's going to be a lot of rain. It's going to be very wet. Now, Darcy Moore was out. We knew that was going to happen because of that injury to his ear. He was experiencing vertigo. And we were trying to think, who's going to replace him? What's going to happen? Are they going to go tall? Are they going to try and, bring in like a Charlie Dean or debut a Cochrane or something like that? That didn't happen at all. So Darcy Moore comes out. Ed Allen comes out, omitted, obviously, and Mason Cox gets omitted. Coming in is Dan Houston, Tim Membry, and Lockie Sullivan. Now, we'll stick on the Moore train for a little bit. So Dan Houston is Moore's straight replacement, defender for defender. It looks like they're going to back in who they have, especially against Peter Wright, Caddy, Langford, that Essendon have brought in as well. Nick Martin's tall. So they do have a bunch of tall players, but I think Collingwood might be relying or counting on that rain to bring the ball to ground a lot. And that's where our sort of ground defenders can come into play. I'm talking Quaynor, Josh Dacos, Maynard, and Dan Houston. The thing you got to think about as well, we talked about this in the preview and in the Moore injury video as well, is that Darcy Cameron can float down back. We've seen that happen multiple times where he can be that seventh defender, that intercept marking defender. Dan Houston can take a good intercept mark. Isaac Quaynor. So we do have a lot of people that can come over the top. And what I envision is they're obviously going with Todd Goldstein as their ruckman because they've got no Draper, no Bryan. I think Peter Wright is going to chop out a lot because I don't think Goldstein, especially in the wet, especially in the rain, is going to be able to keep up with Darcy Cameron. Darcy Cameron is just going to work his ass off against Goldstein. So when Wright gets chopped out, sure, Goldstein might rest as a forward, probably comes off the ground a lot. I anticipate he plays about 65 to 70% of game time around there. So when Wright's in the ruck, they really don't have that super big target, so we should be able to take care of them. I don't anticipate Wright's going to kick 6 goals. I'm guessing 3 at best. Frampton's going to keep him in his little pocket though. Now the biggest outs are Ed Allen and Mason Cox. We talked in the Moore video about Mason Cox. Do they use 2 ruckmen to sort of, and in the Brodie Holland video as well, do they use 2 ruckmen to go to town on Mason? Go to town on Goldstein and have him, just being worked over again and again and again? Or do they just trust Darcy Cameron? They've obviously just trusted Darcy Cameron because of the wet. They don't want to bring in too many talls because they've brought in Tim Membry. And, we always knew Membry was just going to get managed. He wasn't omitted or anything like that. Older body. And I dare say we'll probably see the same with Myercheck. Maybe not McStay because he's a bit younger than 2, but we'll definitely probably see the same with Myercheck, same with McStay, Steele Sidebottom at some time, Jeremy Howe. These players will get managed throughout the season because we are the oldest, most experienced list in the AFL. So that does make sense. Look, Mason Cox, I know I said that he wasn't going to play on ANZAC Day. I kind of called it. I do understand that he is a good tap ruckman, does do some nice things, but when you have a full team, like I said way back when at the start of the year, Membry over Cox, it just goes to prove my point when everyone was telling me not to. Sometimes I want to toot my own horn, and I'm going to toot that horn because I said in one of my first videos predicting the team that Membry would be playing over Cox. I said Reef over Charlie Dean and Billy Frampton as well, albeit Reef is now injured for all season, and then Membry gets chosen over Cox. But I do like the idea of Membry coming back into the side, that triple M's, and then Jordan De Goey is the one for me where the first half he wasn't any good against the Lions. Second half he got better, kicked those 2 goals. I do want him to do a Patrick Dangerfield role, play more as a forward. He's the same height as Membry as well, so maybe when one of the big guys goes off the ground, Jordan De Goey can push into the forward line, but I do like his explosiveness in the middle, so it's just going to be a balancing act there. Now, Ed Allen. Ed Allen is the spew, right? Ed Allen is the spew. We obviously bring in Lockie Sullivan because we need that hard-headed grunt, because it's going to be wet and stuff, and that's what Lockie Sullivan does. Lots of pressure, tackling, perceived pressure, all that sort of stuff. And remember, that was the reasoning why Lockie Sullivan was brought in when Ed Allen was dropped earlier this year as well. Just a bit of a game plan tweak, because we're not going to probably need those outside runners a lot. Because of it raining and stuff like that. So I can understand why. Is it harsh? 100%. So when Ed Allen came on last week as a sub, Darcy Moore, got injured. Ed Allen came on for the last 15 minutes or so. So not even the last quarter, just the last 15 minutes. And he plays that, and then he plays a full game in the VFL. They're obviously dropping him or omitting him to play a full game in the VFL, not have to do two. And, it makes sense. You can't just put him as a sub again, kind of like Ned Long. You can't put Ned Long as the sub for, the fourth, fifth, or sixth time in a row. I understand what they're doing. I just think that the sub rule needs to be abolished. It's either 5 on the bench or just, I don't know, like what was Pommy talking about? 8 on the bench and 3, just something, because it just doesn't work. I think it's just really, really, really unfair. Or just go back to a concussion sub or something like that. I just think it's really unfair, and it's really stunting the growth of players. And maybe that's a video in the future that we'll think of. Let me know down below if you want to sort of see my opinions and how we can sort of work that out. But yeah, Ed Allen, it's a spew. It's an absolute spew that he keeps. Can't find his way into the best 22, but he's just on the precipice. We'll see. We'll see what sort of happens with him. I reckon he's obviously the future of the club, of that midfield. Just needs to just go back. I think it's that defensive stuff that he just needs to work on a little bit more. Now, in saying Ed Allen, was a sub and came back out, Lockie Sullivan's in now. I think Lockie Sullivan will be the sub for this game. Comes on in the third or fourth quarter, barring touch wood, no injuries, and then that's that hard-headed inside mid, just giving it to Essendon. I think that's what Lockie Sullivan was brought in for. Can't see anyone else on that bench being the sub. What I do like to see though is, for the first time, Will Hayes is an emergency. Will there be a late change? Who really knows? But Will Hayes' emergency, it comes after Charlie West was an emergency for the Sydney game in gather round, so I really do like that. I thought we were going to get a cheeky debut from, a Cochrane, a West, or even a Will Hayes. Could have been any of those guys. Maybe we were going to swing a late out. We did it last week. Maybe there's a late out coming, because you remember, Lockie Sullivan was supposed to play last week, and he was a late out. So could we see a late out sort of happen again? Maybe if it's pouring more than they think, they bring in a Will Hayes who's going to be, and take out a member. I don't know, take out someone and have Will Hayes a little bit closer to the ground or something. I don't know. I'm just, in my gut, I'm feeling some sort of debut. But what do you think about the teams? Let me know your thoughts down below. And until then, like, comment, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your pets. And until next one, double shackers. I'll see you later.